I feel very sorry for the people of Rivers State to be afflicted by these gladiators who never want to give up for one another, and also for political elders and elder statesmen that chooses to take side for pecuniary gains instead of sitting down to seriously resolve an issue between children or their sons. The state has been very, very, unfortunate in the political, landscape of this country. It's been a boiling point of all political activities. At every election, it's the most controversial, most violent, and the battle to win and retain power in that state has always been very massive. And to that extent, Rivers State does not occupy an enviable place in the hearts of many well-meaning citizens of this country. And I feel that they should be ashamed and retrace their steps so that they can build a better state with all the potential. It's become a hotbed of crime, hotbed of everything that could be negative, hotbed of economic sabotage. And everybody there seems to have a pie in it. So they are fighting one another, they are protecting their interest, and the state is not making much progress that it should make in the Committee of State. It has too much potential. It's second largest in revenue, internal revenue. So the state has a lot of potential.
Who are these political gladiators that you're referring to? I
mean, former Governor Wike, who's currently the minister, and the man he brought into power, Siminalayi Fubara. Beautiful, fantastic name. But two of them have been locked. These are the current gladiators. They've had several others. You have Amechi and Wike. You had all manner of gladiatory activities and fighting and battling, overcoming one another. Brigandage, too much masculinity in the state. And so they don't want to relax for one another. And from one crisis to the other, you just hear now that the governor is presenting his budget to a four-man House of Assembly. So, yeah. And that is an obvious wrong that we are witnessing. And it's unfortunate. Yeah. So that's my overview of the state. The state is very, very unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, but like you've also mentioned, it's not new. We've seen these political crises in Rivers State. It almost happens with every administration.
That's why I describe it as an unfortunate state among the states in Nigeria.
Yeah,
and that I blame the elders there.
For 2024, I mean, we got a new administration in Aso Rock in 2023. The expectations would be maybe that we'll be able to, learn to do things different under the new administration somehow, some way. What is the significance of us still seeing Rivers State play out the way that it did in Nigeria's, political journey?
The significance is that we, as, the general, culture is difficult to change.
Yeah.
Even if the entire state is changing, the entire nation, our mood, our orientation is improving, culture is very difficult. The culture of violence, the culture of battling, of fighting to the death cannot change overnight from Rivers State, because the basis of all the crisis has been the fact that I will never give up for you. I will never surrender to you. It's either you surrender or I crush you. The other one is saying, I will never. It's either if you don't defeat me, then I defeat you. So it's not just about it's not about civility. It's not about moving with a nation that's moving in change direction. It's about a culture where you don't give up for one another, where you fight till the death. Right. That culture is deep rooted in Rivers State.
Yeah.
It's a culture of Eastern Nigeria, but it's settled very much in Rivers. Rivers is an epitome of what even those who felt they could gladiate have become an embarrassment.
So what could have been done differently, right? Because Nyesom Wike had left office. Similarly for Barra as the new sheriff in town. The arguments were that the old sheriff refused to allow the new sheriff be his own person. I mean, we're hearing talks about political structures being attacked, saying, "Oh, you will not destroy my political structure." Those were the conversations that were being had. So what could have been done differently?
Well, what could have been done different is to have allowed the Rivers State people to vote the governor of their choice. And once that point was missed, and then we are now, what we have what River has inherited is the conspiracy of not allowing proper elections to take place.
If I get you correctly, so you're saying that Siminalayi Fubara was not voted in by the Rivers people?
It was not. And not only that was not voted, it was not the choice that should have been the governor. It was imposed. I don't know who should be the choice, but he was imposed, and there was agreement for him to be imposed. And those agreements are not being followed by all parties.
So the River State election was
and if they follow those parties, they will endanger Siminalayi's future. So he knows the structure Wike is referring to is that political structure that produced Fubara. But Fubara knows that structure is dangerous for his continuous existence and remaining governor or being elected in a second term. And that is the structure that Wike want to protect, and that's the structure that he's cementing, trying to remove them and touch them. The fact that he started touching them, they could see where it was going, and so they have to fight back.
So the River State election, according to you, was completely flawed, and does that also include the presidential elections in River State?
Of course, the election was not perfect, and the Supreme Court said that much. It's just that the irregularities is not substantial enough. So if something is not perfect in the whole, it could be 10, 20, 30%.
No.
And River State can contribute to that imperfection.
What you're explaining is not 10, 20, 30%. What you're explaining is a fundamental flaw to the essence of what River State election.
The word a fundamental flaw. If out of 36 states and the vote portion that Rivers contributed to the election, what is the percentage? That's what I'm saying.
Okay, great.
He's talking about the presidential.
No, I mean, I was asking about both, basically, but
in River State, there was also contest in court, and the Supreme Court found that it was substantial enough that there were irregularities. What I'm saying, if you have a whole and you have a part that is tainted, it means there's no perfection. Perfection is not attained yet. And to that extent, it's not totally. Our elections have not, you see, anyone who thinks that we have had an election that is perfect with the current state and orientation of Nigerian citizens, including the political class that see election as a trading opportunity to make the much you can make. Electoral umpires, the voters, and the politicians. Unless that development is achieved, we've not gotten there. We are still very crude and still very backward in our political development. So when we saw Ghana demonstrate simplicity of election and accepting victory even when before results were declared, we couldn't believe that even just next door, some black people called Ghanaians have reach this height.
And even South Africa, I mean, there are many examples to look at. Kenya also had elections, not long ago, about a year ago.
Yeah, but they're not in the class that Ghana showed. South Africa, for example, South Africa is a bit of a European society, but populated by blacks and whites. That country is not very, that's why when I visit the place, the South Africans ask me, they introduce me that I came from Africa.
What?
That's how they introduced me, that I'm my friend from Africa.
Interesting. Okay, I want to go back to the question I asked you earlier about what could have been done differently. And I remember your response was that, they should have elected, they should have allowed the Rivers people to elect their own choice.
Yes.
Assuming but not considering, let's go along with, your assumption or your statement that the election was flawed. I mean, we can see that across board. Now, River State already has a governor. Siminalayi Fubara has been determined governor. Yes. From the moment he stepped into office as governor, what should have been done differently? What
should have been done, which is to allow the governor to govern the state.
Who should allow the governor to govern the state?
Wike, who left, who said I will not godfather the president. But Wike is not a man that leaves so easily. And so if you took what he was saying for the fact, forgetting that the structure he has arranged to take care of his interests, is going to disappear overnight. So Wike is going to fight, and he is known to fight till the death. And so what we are seeing in Rivers, we're just seeing the beginning of it. Except they become humble and think of the interest of the River State people. The River State people, unfortunately, they tend to be very good in supporters of these kinds of behavior. They like to align, and they begin to cheer as those who cheer masquerades in the dancing, in the masquerade square. They don't know the damage it's doing to their personal development. But what River State people believe is that those crumbs that fall from the criminal activities make River State a boiling point of economic peace. People have freebies. The state's bubbling. Men and women are enjoying. They think that is development. Or a few roads here and there. No, Rivers is more than that. Rivers represents something that could have been a pride to this country.
Yeah, I mean, so expatiate a little bit more on that, before we get to talk about Simple Bara directly. I want to talk about, what the picture of Rivers State should really be. It's, like you said, second highest earning, state in Nigeria. It is a major oil producing state. What would you expect, should be the picture of development that Rivers State should be enjoying, aside these bridges and roads that we see every couple of weeks?
Yeah, Rivers State should be enjoying first and foremost an ambience of civility, because it should be able to educate its people and bring them out of this crude thinking pattern of fighting for everything you want to have. Secondly, Rivers State should be able to develop where the elders in the state are not just side takers, but they are genuinely interested in resolving crises that befalls their political sons. I also believe Rivers State should develop to the extent that it becomes an attractive tourist destination. It has so many waters around. It's like the name, Rivers. And it's called a garden city for a river, where you're supposed to have aquatic splendor utilized for progress, and that people should travel in knowing that that's an oil-producing area. It should be a land of prosperity where opportunities are vast, where people are prosperous real, not prosperous from criminal activities.
What stops us from achieving that? I mean, aside the corruption, which everyone would most likely point to, but what hinders the average Nigerian leader, governor on any level, from achieving what you've just painted, which is very, very achievable?
Absolutely. It's so achievable because it is simply about the orientation of the leader and the leadership. Because the leader is from the leadership and then from the people. It's a very, anywhere in the world where there are natural resources, there is a certain spiritual affliction that makes the people not to benefit from it. And Rivers need to cure itself from that affliction. Check all over the world, especially in this country where you have oils and you have natural resource. Check where you have Zamfara, the gold. It's bedeviled by huge criminality. So anywhere you have monies coming from natural resource, it affects the people in a manner that deprives them of the development that they should enjoy. This has been a situation that has been bothering me, that I have been thinking about. How come this is so? So Rivers, for example, need to wake up and understand that if Rivers State and its people do not know that while Nigeria benefits from what comes from it,
right,
they themselves need to grow up. I'm not talking about just one man. One man cannot do it for them.
Yeah.
It's going to be a renaissance. A collective decision.
Okay.
And then the political class plays the leadership role and stop fighting one another to control the resources of a state that need development.
We have to move away from Rivers State.
Okay,
but final question. The people who believe that the drama between Nyesom Wike and Siminalayi Fubara is beyond the picture of the political structure that is painted, that there's also some beef because he didn't get the ticket with the People's Democratic Party. So in a way, that is in some measure is a fight between him and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. So it's not just about the political structure in Rivers State, but also there's the underlying factor of him not...
No, Wike has a bigger fight. The Siminalayi was a surprise to him. He didn't expect the fight. He didn't look forward to this one. This one is the biggest distraction. The person he really wants to decimate is Atiku Abubakar, and that mission has not been lost on him. He's very focused on that. What is dragging him back is this guy is like, you are disturbing me. I have a big battle here. I came to Abuja to position myself for a great war. Oh, who sent you to distract me like this?
Is that what do you expect? When do you think that war will start?
That war started already.
Wow.
You don't understand. The political structuring in Nigeria is such that President Tinubu is strategically, and that's why the thing is irritating. They don't understand it. So.
That's very funny. All right, let's move on to other things. Still in 2024, other things where issues also came up. Tinubu's tax reform legislation has also been a major source of disagreement since it was presented to the National Assembly in October. Legislation includes the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, the Nigerian Tax Bill, the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board of Nigeria Establishment Bill, which have generated national discussions.
Proponents contend that the changes will improve tax collection efficiency, simplify tax processes, assist small firms, and lessen the tax burden on 90% of Nigerian workers. However, northern politicians and officials such as Senator Ali Ndume and Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State have been outspoken in their criticism. They argue that the laws, especially in the northern area, might significantly affect state government revenue and interfere with corporate operations. So now let's take the conversation to tax reform bills. And these bills caused a lot of issues. First of all, the North argued that, or the northern governors argued that it was to not, that these bills will lead to the underdevelopment of the region. At some point, there was a religious angle to the conversation that kicked in. So let's get your thoughts as to, I mean, it is still a big topic of conversation. As at yesterday or so, El-Rufai was still trending because they believe he was throwing subtle shade at the president, you know, he put out a tweet, I think it was 20 lessons, I'm going to look for it, 20 lessons about politics or policy making, something in that line, and they think he was shading the president. So why did you think that this tax reform bill was such a big conversation in 2024?
Very interesting. You know, when you are looking at the very artifacts, the very things and that have held this country down for too long, you understand that our development and underdevelopment is rooted in culture, is rooted in orientation, is rooted in benefits, you know, that we suck out of the country without contributing. Whoever has read that tax reform should know that that's a very wonderful proposition, and it's for the good of this country. However, the Northerners have misunderstood. They have seen the derivation clause that is added there, that moved the 20% that was initially allocated to derivation, now 60%. To them, they will no longer earn as much from VAT. And then also there are some areas that talks about the inheritance taxes,
yes,
and which is bordering to them. You know, I think the North, because of its acceptance of Islam, seems to be very averse to taxation. And that has always been the case. Many countries in the world, many countries, many businesses move to the United Arab Emirates because of their tax-friendly environment. So for them, I'm not surprised that the Northerners are alarmed about it. But I believe the country must sit together to pass this bill for the good of this country, because it exempts so many people from tax burden. It reduces the tax threshold for corporate bodies, which a lot of them are not in the North.
Yeah.
And so they don't see, and many things are done informally in the North. You have people who are billionaires who don't have a registered company, and they are doing business successfully. So they don't see, and their taxes are not even captured because they move, they trade in cash, and they move. So there's a lot of irregularities in the North, which this tax reform bill might cure. For example, the Nigerian Revenue Service that has been proposed to now centralize collection of taxes. You know, the kind of revenue many of the government officials who are in the tax revenue, customs and all of them, you know what they make out of the revenue they're supposed to collect for the country. So if you automate the system, all of that illicit wealth that has been paraded by many tax collecting officers of Nigeria that are very, you know, all of that will reduce. And they have that reason to oppose. And I feel ashamed that they are doing so and doing it openly without thinking properly about the productivity, the development that this tax will bring to this country. A country that has a very moribund tax bill, yeah, tax laws that have not been, you know, reviewed over the many years. I feel that I hope the president can push it through. I know that it's a great risk to his political future.
I was going to ask, do you think that that will impact his political future in 2027? Because
it will, but the president, knowing who he is, understands that this is a battle, and so he might have to weaken those political forces.
There's that one. The most recent one is the announcement of University of Southern Kaduna.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's also a lot of pushback around. Twitter is already going crazy about it. So
yeah, because Kaduna is a very delicate and state. If you want to do anything, if you want to do anything in the south, the north, Kaduna look like Nigeria in a small way. It has, you know, the Christians in the south, in the north. That makes the state a very delicate state. Whatever is being done there, the president has to be very smart and understand that These are traps. If you do too many things that will offend that base, they're surely going to affect your vote. And the campaign has already started. And they are beginning to use this bill. Unfortunately, the president has to be very smart so that he can overcome the effect of their disagreement. The president might want to expose these guys. He might want to react later politically to many of them, and they might not even come back to the Senate, but might not find themselves politically relevant at that time. I hope he can. Otherwise, it will affect.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there still needs to be some level of political education in those parts of the country, so that these persons who are pushing against the bill will also not necessarily find the relevance that they find. Because, what you're explaining now is that these people basically would control how majority of those people vote and may kill the voting numbers from northern Nigeria. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The northern Nigeria is not, it's called moral leadership. That's the kind of leadership. It's not like the East. You have status leadership. The Southwest is called leadership-led. The followership-led, meaning that they gather around and appoint one as their. But that is moral leadership. So at the end of the day, the mood in the North currently does not really favor the president, because the president's reforms have hit the North in a manner that they never imagined. And they find the president they feel regretful that they have elected a man who took the decisions that President Buhari did not take. Because when you say you remove subsidy, in a place where you have the majority of the poor Nigerians, the poverty headquarters of the Nigerian state is in the North. And they have not really done so well in building economic opportunities for majority. They have a minority wealthy, and they have a followership that is very poor. And so when you reform that, and then you touch the currency and liberalize, you know what's going on in the exchange rate market? That's one of the biggest businesses of the Northerners. And so when you talk about currency movements and here and there, all those benefits simply went away. Do you know how many tankers of petroleum passed through the North to some of these neighboring states? You see the pushback when the border was closed in Niger? Yeah. That tells you that Niger is an extension of northern economy. And so there is a lot that we are dealing with. And that's why a president that's not bothered about a second term, who takes the bull by the horn, need the support of the country. I have read the bill. I am for the bill 200%, and not a shred of it should be removed, because that bill will save this country.
Is there a way they would have gone about it differently that would have maybe made the northern leaders, accept it? There are those who say that, the tax reform bill would not really be the tax reform bill if there wasn't any pushback. But the argument is that maybe there should have been a consultation before these bills were pushed forward. Do you think that would have helped?
I agree with you, but the people who were in charge kept telling us stories of various levels of consultation. Nigerians believe the only way you feel consulted is when it meets your interest. No. You are told that this is going to happen. You are educated. Your questions are answered. What they are fighting for is just that derivation clause, because they believe what they contribute is not so much compared to what they expect to take.
Is there any possibility that can be reversed?
No, it shouldn't be reversed. You can't be earning. I don't think it should be reversed. That means the injustice that we have done to this country because of northern opposition will perpetuate. After all, in 1967, Nigeria should have been independent like Ghana. But it was pushed forward because the North felt they were not as ready. Secondly, the JAM, Nigerian quota, admission quota, the cutoff mark, have been reduced to benefit the North. Yeah. There is always something being done to ensure the North comes along for the good of this country. So this time they should allow the South to have his way.
Yeah, but what I'm speaking of is, instead of them always having to be favored, to be benefited like you mentioned now, is there anything that, would be done to ensure that these governors and these northern leaders, become more intuitive, and work harder to ensure that they are, contributing more?
You see, in the North, I believe intelligent and very well-meaning Northerners have understood and accepted this bill and want the bill to go. What can be done is to create an environment that makes you work hard. For example, if the local government autonomy is fully implemented, where you have governors in the north that lives in Abuja, they hardly be there. The local government chairman, they're all in Abuja. And what they do after allocation, it's a very, very open place. It's a beautiful place. I've been to the north. Good people, wonderful people. They are not very aggressive. Political upheaval, they never fight themselves. Even when they don't speak so negative. They are very calm, very positive. The leadership there need to know. That's why the president is creating the environment. If you know your derivation has been moved from 60 to 20, the derivation part is now 60. The free sharing is now 2020. You will now do something to begin to earn from that pie by creating jobs, by attracting companies, industries to your place. You have raw materials, you have everything it takes. So then when we look at other issues, you need to also make your people begin to earn good pay. You create wealth. And then if you don't do that, you can't force them. They will tell you, if you say, let's go left, they say, our religion does not allow us. If you go right, so you be with your religion, keep it, but ensure the nation does not stagnate under your religious orientation. You know, and it's beautiful that we have a Muslim ticket handling this at this time. Because if it were to be otherwise, they would have said the vice president, who then might be a Christian, is the one engineering the national economic council.
I mean, there's many Middle Eastern countries, you know, that, you know, are way more developed, that, you know, you would expect, you know, that these should be model countries that northern Nigerian leaders should be able to look at. And, you know, regardless of what your religion says, which is the common excuse, there should still be some level of development.
You know, the religion came to meet a culture. The culture of the Hausas of the north. There is already culture before religion came there, just like it is here when Christianity came here. It met a culture, met orientation. So the culture is interacting with the religion. The outcome is what you are seeing. Because that religion is prospering and flourishing in other places.
Exactly.
So what is happening, there's not the religion, is the culture that thinks is religion, that is finding its way. There is what you call a clash of the religion and the culture. They do not. One is of a poverty orientation. The other one is for prosperity. And so there is a drag between the prosperity of the faith and the poverty culture, of the poverty-driven culture of that part of the country.
All right.
Because
so now
the religion is doing well in Dubai and other places. They have implemented properly the religion in a manner that is an example to the world.
Right. So projections for 2025 regarding the tax reform bills?
Well, if the tax reform bill is passed, I can assure you that Nigeria will be, because the tax system will be so modernized. It means that if I want to pay customs, the custom officers will not collect that tax. The tax will be collected by the Nigerian Revenue Service. If you want to pay for immigration, if you want to pay for NIMASA, if you want to pay for any of these government agencies.
No duplicity of taxes.
No duplicity, and you don't have the people determining it and then receiving something under and telling you, I will help you here. No. Yeah. It takes it all from them. They are just administrators. They're just ensuring you've done it. Where's your receipt? Have you made your payment? You do it anyway. It's so modern. So, you know, it's something that is a revolution and is going to change, the game changer against this corruption. The fact that you go to some street, you say, oh, you know that street? Those 4 houses, they are owned by a custom officer. It becomes a status symbol to become a custom officer, an access to wealth.
Yeah. Do you think that so far in all the things, all the policies, or the moves that President Bola Tinubu has made in office, would you argue that this might be his best move yet?
This particular tax reform bill, as a man who is looking for money to ensure that he gets the biggest revenue to drive his agenda, he is a very smart guy, because there's no way a nation can be so indebted and have so small revenue collection when the opportunities are so vast. So if we don't do this now, how do we pay the debt? Oil is going out of fashion. People are moving away to electric vehicles. So it's futuristic, trying to change the way we do things so that this country can benefit from the huge importations that we import. The kind of money the government officials make around the collection point is huge. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've also seen a few other people say that this is maybe the most significant thing that is done, even, you know, better than the fuel subsidy moves and all of that, you know, because this would definitely have a very significant effect on Nigeria's economy. And, you know, I've always been pushing to clean up the Nigerian flow of money.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's too easy. It's too porous.
Yes.
It's actually made so that everybody will be benefiting.
Yeah.
And that's kept this country quiet. This country has been very, very difficult, but the kind of money government, those who work in government, it become an envy of those who didn't venture into government.
Yeah.
And they make so much money, they flaunt it, they live in it in our neighborhoods, they live in it. You ask, how did this guy get here? You will now wonder, oh, yeah, they would now tell you, used to be a government official. And it becomes an access to wealth.
Theophilus Akatugba, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure to be here.